My job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Welcome to the Black Girls Heal podcast, where we talk about healing our intimacy disorders, unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first ourselves and then others. Every episode, we will talk about advice you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow in your self-worth. I'm Sheena Lachey, love addiction coach and trauma specialist. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. I'm overjoyed to have you with me again today. And I hope that you're being surrounded by relationships that deserve you. And if not, that you're on your way there because you are worthy and you deserve to have love and be loved. So we are in episode 3 of our Navigating Love Avoidance series, where I'm pulling some of my favorite episodes, talking about the themes and the concepts of love avoidance. Now, today's episode is probably going to overlap a lot with last week's episode, but I really like the ways that I taught some of these concepts in today's episode for us to make sure that we keep our eyes open. So today's episode is about 3 hidden ways we ignore and encourage red flags in others, ways that we may be enabling other people to not change, to not show up for us in the way that we want, so that we can know what to do instead. So that is what we're going to talk about here. There may be some tactics that we didn't know were tactics. There may be some patterns that we didn't even know were patterns. So we're going to talk about some things that stick with me, because I'm going to share some concepts that you're like, is this actually a red flag? And then we're going to bring it all together at the end so that you can see this is how we end up in relationships that we thought were safe, that we thought were end up in the way that we needed them to, only to end up being duped at the end. And we don't like being duped. We like being aware and having our eyes open. As always, for each of these episodes, especially because I know we're putting this together for the reason of taking a mini deep dive into each of these topics. This is the second series of the podcast episodes. We're talking about love avoidance here, but for every one of these episodes, there are worksheets available specifically for the episode. So a recap of what I discussed. Either discussion questions if you go through these episodes with a friend, a loved one, a family member, and y'all talk about what you've learned. So there's discussion questions for each of you there. Or if you're doing this on your own, you can use those questions as journaling prompts for you to go deeper, and a challenge, a next step for you to do, either pulled from the episode or something that is completely different to go deeper in your next step. And then, of course, we have the community and the ability to chat and connect with what you're learning and ask questions. All of that is within the BGH Members Club, which you can find by going to blackgirlsheal.org/members. So that is it for now. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's podcast episode. There will be another mini intro to the episode after that, and then we're digging on in. Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Before we get started, let's take a small break to say thank you to this week's sponsors. All right, let's go. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. As always, I'm overjoyed to be with you again this week and sharing in this week's episode. Today's episode, I am talking about 3 ways that we may secretly ignore and maybe even feed into red flags. So a common thing that I hear from lots of folks, and even that we may have in our own personal when reflecting back on relationships or situations that went wrong, it's like, where did I miss that? And how did I get so deceived? Or, I wonder if this was the moment that I could have said or done something differently to prevent what was happening. And I think a lot of times, sometimes it's clear that there are some things that we have overlooked. And I think sometimes there are some habits that we have that we don't understand or we don't know that is actually what's feeding into us keeping around people who have red flags. Things that are common habits that have not been clocked and told to us that this is what you're doing, that's making it even harder for you to distance yourself from people who may be toxic for you,
unavailable to you, who don't have the best interests in you, but you don't recognize it until you're already attached to them, until it's already too late, right? And not too late because you've ever spent too much time with people to where you can't create boundaries. I think that sunken cost fallacy is why a lot of us will stay in friendships, stay in relationships, keep feeding into things with family members because we think, well, I've been here for X amount of years. I've known them for my whole life. This is how we've always done it. It'd be too weird or awkward or uncomfortable. There's too much invested into this to change, but that is never the case. And anytime you can always decide this does not work for me and to pivot and to change. You do not have to be held hostage by ways your mistakes, what you might consider to be mistakes, or ways that with some new hindsight and some growth, you're like, wow, earlier me either wasn't secure enough, not healthy enough, or she just didn't know. And she made these decisions, she made these commitments, and now she's connected to this person or to this relationship. You do not have to be held hostage to what younger you, more uninformed you knew, right? Now you have access to knowing what you're worth, what you deserve, who you are, and what you want in the future. And so at any time, you can change your mind. At any time, you can say, yeah, I agreed to this before, but this doesn't work for me anymore. At any time, you can say, yeah, I may have made this commitment to you in front of other people or in front of people who are really important to us. And for the sake of my not only my heart, my body, my health, it's time for me to leave. And so you can change the rules at any time. And so for today's episode, I want to talk about three secret ways that we may be feeding into relationships or may have set the stage to have people, relationships, situations around us that don't work for us, for you to not only look for people who may be mean or flaky or unfaithful or inconsistent or deceptive or whatever it may be, whatever your pattern may be. Some people, some of us, our patterns are people who are perfectly wonderful, but they are just not able to prioritize us for whatever reason. Y'all have heard me talk about that before, and I feel like I have to say that a lot because I feel like the majority of women that I support, especially after they've like done a lot of their work, now they're around nicer people, and so it's harder for them to create boundaries with people who are quote unquote nice because they don't see all the other things that are going on that are just as bad or just as toxic as the other things that have happened. So we're going to talk about some of those red flags in today's episode. So go ahead, get your pen, your paper, your journal, and let's go ahead and jump on in. So the first secret way that you may be keeping folks around who you do not need to be keeping around is when you keep people around that you know are not a good fit for you, but you keep them around as emotional support animals. When you keep these people around as your emotional support animals. I was talking with a client this past week about some recent relationships that she had gotten to a place to where she could finally create some boundaries with and distance herself from. And, and me reflecting back to her what I heard, this is kind of what came out because she had saw that these were people that weren't really a good fit for her. Earlier versions of you of her would have um, dismiss the red flags, dismiss the narcissism, dismiss the ways that this person was not meeting the standards of the type of partner that she wanted, or even the type of friendships that she wanted, right? So now she could clock it. However, because and I feel comfortable saying this because we've talked about these things before. She's given me permission to share at different times. And also, this is a story that is so common for all of us. So many people could hear this and be like, oh, that's me. which is why I'm sharing it. But because she have felt some loneliness, because this person made her laugh in some ways, because this person was someone that offered something to do when she was bored, because this person allowed her to get out some of this flirtatious energy whenever she needed it. She knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. She didn't want it to go anywhere, but it was able to give her a place to, again, to kind of release some of this pent up romantic connection that she didn't really have any other options or any other options that she wanted to engage in. It was almost like this is my place to kind of use as a playground and not really care about what happens. The problem with that, which is going to come back around with some of the later other things that I'm going to share in today's episode, is the problem with that is that we underestimate a lot of different things. One, we underestimate that because your eyes are open, because you see the game, because you see that what is going on is this person is not going to be available for you. They're toxic, they're narcissistic, they're dysfunctional. You think because you peep that, because you're aware of it, that is going to prevent them from being able to use you in the future. And I need to tell you that people who are manipulators, people who are narcissists are better at this than you. And I know that that is going to trigger some people who are super competitive and people who are super like, ain't can no one get nothing over on me. You try to play me, I'm gonna play you first. Is going to really provoke some of y'all to want to go and try to prove maybe not me wrong, but prove that concept wrong. And I need to tell you that there are some people who are just really bad people, that their aim is not to, is to have ultimate power and control, to have access to your body, that they don't spend 10% of their time manipulating people. They don't spend 20% of their time. They spend 80 to 90 to 100% of their time studying people, and really having no conscience to the impact of what they do to others. And this is not only for people who are narcissists and predators and people who you will never be able to, as much as you want to have a redeeming quality to them, it will not exist. This is also for those of us, just being honest, who are very avoidant. And some of us who are very avoidant, we can kind of look back on our avoidant past. If you're listening to this podcast episode, I know that you are going through or have already gone through a lot of your transformation work. But many of us can look back at our avoidant past and see the remnants of the people who we've broken their hearts. We've broken their hearts, we've cut them off, we have distanced ourselves from them. We have played a very deep and elaborate game for some of us, or we have just been like, I don't care enough about you to even play a game. And no matter how hurt this person said that they were, no matter what they tried to do to get their lick back or whatever, we did not care because we were so detached, right? So if you're on the receiving end of that, and you think that with me saying that there are some people who are just at this place where they are so detached that there is really like you're not going to win the game, and you're like, okay, you know what? Watch this. Bet I will. I think that you're using your energy for the wrong things. I think it is a best use of your part of your focus, especially if what the trigger is I'm not gonna let anyone get over on me. I'm not gonna let anyone disrespect me because I deserve more than that. Use that energy. And instead of using that energy on people who are destructive and people who could never give you what you ever wanted and aren't even worth that time, use that sense of justified righteousness and confidence and knowing of your value to eliminate these people from your life and learn how to focus on people who are going to give you the abundance that you want. If I only have 24 hours in my day, why would I spend, and 16 of those hours are awake, 8 hours I'm working, a lot of those other hours I have to sleep and eat. Why am I going to use 5 to 6 hours of my mental time and my heart focus on people and relationships and things who are trash? Why would I use my precious time and my precious heart energy on people who aren't even worth it, right? Versus being able to detect, okay, there are some people that no matter what I'm trying to do, they are not going to feel on the level that I want them to feel, the regret, the remorse, the whatever that I will want them to feel whenever I do. Maybe I do enact my revenge. Maybe I do enact a way to make them feel jealous. Maybe I do cut them off. Some of us have had the experience where we have done whatever it is that we wanted to do to try to prove something to someone, like we didn't respond to their DMs, we left them on red, we blocked them, we canceled a date. And so we're over here thinking like, I bet I showed them something and I bet like they don't care. And I don't care either because I'm living my best life. And you're going and you're doing your thing, you're hanging out with your friends, or you're volunteering, you're going on trips, whatever. Come to find out, this person was already talking to other people this whole time. This person don't even care. This person, whenever they decide, you think that you're the one that's in control. You think that you're the one who's in control of leaving them on red and blocking them. Whenever they decide they're done doing whatever they're doing on the side, they've used up the person, used up whatever thing that they're using for their source. They decide to come around and they decide to try to romance you, woo you, apologize to you, honeymoon you to get you back into their fold. And so you think that you have been the one who's been teaching them this lesson the whole time. You have just been one of many on their roster. You have just been one of many people that they will circulate and come back and drop um, a non-committal, low energy BS effort to get you back, or to get you back talking to them. Because some of y'all, your foreplay, your emotional foreplay with this person is chaos and fights. Some people, they know all they have to do is tell you nice things, do nice things for you, apologize, hang out with you, be a good friend for a while, and then you'll be right back in the same thing you were before. For some of you, um, the energy of fighting and conflict and stuff is enough. So you think that you're telling them off and telling them how they disrespected you and how you're not going to take this and who do they think they are, and they're taking it and they're like apologizing and everything, and you think you're really giving it to them. Meanwhile, this person's playing Tetris on their phone, like while you're talking, like, but you can't see that. This person is not all affected in the way that you think they are. They just know that you have to get this out. They know that you have to have your emotional tantrum. And once you've done that, and once they give you some platitudes, then we can go back to business as usual and repeat the whole cycle all over again. Okay. So number one's point is keeping people around as emotional support animals. And I'm going off this subsection of that because I need you to know that for some of y'all may keeping people around that you see red flags because you're bored, because you want someone to flirt with, because, they're nice enough. But whatever red flags you saw at the beginning, they don't go away just because your eyes are open. They are red flags for a reason. In the book that's coming out, How to Pick Partners for Love Addicts, the book that I said that's done is being printed right now. One of the things that I share in the book that I've shared here on the podcast before is that the red flags that I list in that book are not like the same thing as pros and cons. Where if you make a list of qualities that you like about someone and a list of qualities about someone that you don't like and you compare them, it's not like if you have 6 on the pros list and 4 on the cons list, that those are like they may equal out, so it's just positive 2. No, everything on the cons list is like negative 100. There's nothing that is possible on the pros list that will outweigh the destruction that this person who is displaying these set of qualities that is going to outweigh this. These qualities are going to drain you, deplete you, emotionally trigger and traumatize you. They may use, if this is a romantic connection, they may use some of these qualities to use you romantically, sexually, and get you involved that way. For my folks who have poor financial boundaries with family members, with friends, with other people, with partners, these could be people who will use these qualities to financially drain you and put you in ruin. For people who, have a hard time with emotional boundaries, whether or not it's friendship, romantic, or family, or otherwise. These are people that when they show these qualities, they are going to use you as their emotional supply. And so there's no amount of advice, of giving, of patience, of support. You're connecting them to therapists and you're connecting them to resources that's ever going to stabilize them, and that they're ever going to truly be grateful for, and they're ever going to truly be able to stand on their own 2 feet, right? And so you need to decide, for point number one, you need to decide that when someone is showing you who they are and what they're available for, they do not qualify as an associate or a friend. And I know that there are some other people who might teach differently to keep people around for resources. In my experience, I can only speak from my experience. In my experience, anything that comes from a destructive and toxic source always has a twinge of toxicity too. So let's say I knew someone who was a car salesman, and this is on my mind because I've been recently having some car issues, right? At one point I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to get another car? Let's say I met someone along the way who was clearly toxic, narcissistic, whatever, unavailable, whatever, in some way, enough to where I had to create real distance from them. Not just someone who, like, okay, we didn't click, we didn't really have a lot in common, it didn't match, but no, actually, there are some actual cons here. And I thought, okay, well, they're not a good fit, but I'm still going to keep them around because who knows? Who knows when I might need to hook up? In my experience, some other people may strongly disagree with this, but in my experience, if I go and I try to catch a favor from one of these toxic people, a few things may happen. One thing that may happen is now that I have opened this window, they have a window to come and try to ease in all the other ways that they try to take advantage of me, whether or not it's emotionally, mentally, financially, sexually, whatever. Because now I need something from them. Now we are in talking terms again. Now there is this openness that wasn't there before. So now they have a window in, right? So they can slip in something that I didn't want. Right. I'm either restart or start for the first time what I was trying to prevent in the first place. The second thing that may happen is because this is a really toxic person, this favor that they're giving me already comes with its cons. Like, it's not actually that good of a favor. I'll give a different example because this is something real that happened. There was a girl that I went to school with, and she was working at the campus store. And I already knew that she didn't like me. She was trying to go after the guy I was dating at the time. In fact, they may have even like, that's a whole other story, y'all. But but just whatever it was, I knew that it just wasn't good vibes. So she comes and tells me, "Hey, Sheena, I know you're looking for a job. The campus store is hiring." And I remember having in my mind about trusting the fruit, looking at the fruit of the people, like looking at the tree and looking at the fruit that they produce. And I knew at that time, because I can't trust the source of this thing, whatever fruit she's giving me is not going to be good. Come to find out, y'all, I was right. This job that I probably would have gotten ended up being something that was kind of embroiled in like a scandal. People who got the job ended up losing it kind of shortly afterwards because the campus store had to close. Like, it would have set me up for so much destruction and despair. And also, who's to know, because she didn't really like me, who's to know if she wasn't going to set me up or, be a bully, because she would have been kind of like a supervisor or a manager. Like, it would have come, the favor wasn't actually a favor. It would have actually been a consequence. It would have actually, I'm trying to find the right word for it. I know someone on the other side of this podcast is like saying what I'm trying to, the word that encapsulates this so clearly. Um, but yeah, it wouldn't have been a blessing, it would have been a curse. So I personally believe that keeping people around as for resources who are toxic and destructive and narcissistic and manipulators, who you're like, oh man, I can't trust this person as far as I can throw them. Those type of people, I don't believe, and I am not going to encourage y'all to keep them around at all for any reason, for emotional support, for jokes and laughs, to flirt with in the DMs, to ask for favors when you need them because of what comes along with it. Okay. So that's point number one. Point number two, y'all, that I would give you the secret ways that we may ignore red flags that may feed into destructive relationships is not sitting in your feelings and paying attention to your discomfort. So sometimes what happens, especially in the case of, like I said before, where you've done enough work to where maybe the very clear red flags that you had in the past are on your radar now. Like I've talked before, that when it comes to healing and breaking these patterns, it's like different levels. You will get to a place where you will master the places that are really hard for you right now that you don't see. You're going to get to a place, you do this work long enough, you're a part of my coaching program, you're all those things, you're going to get to a place where you master that. Like, you can see those people coming from a mile away. They have no shot with you. Those people are out. Now we talk about level two. Level two are those people who may not look like the level ones. They may have some more positive qualities, right? And so because you are moving up your ladder, you are getting better folks, better standards, better whatever, they may still come with some cons, but either they may be a little bit more muted. They may seem like they're being offset by these positive things that are coming around. But the point for number two is when you see the symptoms or the hints or the signs of the cons, you have a little twinge of discomfort. You're like, oh, I don't know if I like that. Or, oh, that's kind of annoying. Or, ooh, that wouldn't work for me long term. You catch it, you clock it, but as quick as it comes, you let it go. You don't let the way that your body is trying to tell you that something's off. You don't pay attention to it. And a lot of us don't really know how to sit in our feelings. For some of us, the way that we have learned to sit in our feelings, the extent of that is being taught to ruminate and despair, ruminate and worry. And for some of us, we're tired of doing that. And it's like, that's also never gotten me anywhere. So when people tell me to sit in my feelings, I've been depressed. The being depressed don't help me not be depressed, right? And that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about learning how, because sometimes there's different ways that we will get intuitive feelings and thoughts. Sometimes it is straight cognition. It straight is, ooh, having a very clear, conscious thought of, I don't like that. That doesn't feel good. Sometimes it is what is a felt sense in our body. Felt sense being tightness in our gut, our fist clenching, our pelvic region clenching, feeling a heaviness in our throat, feeling a shiver down our spine, feeling kind of this just general unease, right? And if we learn to ignore that, or actually, let me take that back. Many of us have had to learn how to ignore that to be able to cope. Sometimes we have had to learn how to ignore that because for us growing up, that felt sense of being in our body because we were surrounded by so much trauma, whether it was very clear physical, sexual abuse, or whether or not it was the incredible heaviness of a childhood emotional neglect, which is the common thread for anyone who listens to this podcast. Childhood emotional neglect has been the case for us, even if you've had parents in the home, financially secure, people who are physically present, something with you emotionally was not attended to. And that's incredibly painful because you've had to learn how to compartmentalize or dismiss your needs altogether. And so that's why some of us have a hard time being connected to our feelings and being connected to our bodies because that is deeply painful for a child. And we've had to learn how to shut that off and maybe go straight into our mind and learn how to intellectualize our feelings or to become very hypervigilant to make sure other folks don't get to us. Or maybe we learned how to become very aggressive to make sure no one or nothing ever hurts us again or takes advantage of us again. And some of us, we have had to, because we're so sensitive to the emotions, we have had to learn how to, when we feel the negative feelings, our go to response is not to shut it off necessarily, but our fight response is to appease. So this person makes me feel uncomfortable. Something about this makes me feel uncomfortable. Let me find a way to make this better. Whether or not the finding the way to make it better is to fix the person on the other side of it, to help them out, to give them insight. Like maybe you don't know that you do this, but I just want to let you know. I've heard before that it's good to communicate to people what you need. So let me communicate to this person who's giving me these red flags that this is happening, right? So your fight response may look like trying to appease and try to help them. It may look like, I don't like this. And I think that what this person is wanting or needing, or the way that this is going to show up in the relationship, if I stay aware of this, we're not going to be able to move forward. So now what I'm going to do is I want this person to be more available to me. I want this person to be more honest with me. I want this person to be proactive in making plans with me and to prioritize me. But subconsciously, I know that's not going to happen. So what I will do in the background is I'm going to minimize that need. I'm going to make that need smaller. I'm going to kind of forget about it so that when that stuff happens, yeah, it's still uncomfortable, but the sensation that's in my gut is not as strong. The irritation is not as big because I've done what I've needed on my end to um, kind of cope with what's reality, right? I say often in this podcast that when we see or meet people who are not available for us, the best thing for us to do is to see exactly who they are and where they are and to accept that and not accept it in the way of that we're green lighting it or that we're okay with it and that we're co-signing it, but just to see like, this is a person who this is the most that they can give me and that they want to give me. And it's not my job to try to change them, convince them otherwise. If you've ever listened to an episode of Black Girls Heal and thought that was powerful, but now what? BGH Members Club is for you. Inside, you'll get ad free bonus episodes and an archive library of all of our current episodes without ads as well, in depth worksheets for every topic we cover, and special drop in lessons to help you actually apply what you're learning. This is your space to reflect, grow, and make real changes in your healing journey. Join today at blackgirlsheal.org/members and take the next step towards becoming your healthiest version of you. Have you ever had one of those days where everything just feels harder than usual and you can't quite figure out why? I've definitely had my fair share, and I totally get how frustrating it can be. And recently, I learned that sometimes it's not just stress or lack of sleep, it's actually more hormones that are at play. And that's where Happy Mammoth comes in. They offer a free 2-minute quiz that can help you uncover the root cause of your hormonal symptoms. It's super easy, and you just answer a few questions about what you're going through and where you're at in life. And after taking the quiz, you'll get a personalized recommendation to help balance your hormones and start feeling better. I took the hormone quiz myself, and it gave me a personalized insight into what might be happening with my hormones so that I can start to do better. And the quiz suggested that I have symptoms that may align with having high estrogen, which is one of many hormones that Hormone Harmony can help to regulate. Hormone Harmony's herbal formula doesn't just help with estrogen, though. It assists with testosterone, and it also helps with stress hormones such as cortisol, which we all know can wreak havoc on the nervous system and everything it's connected to. Though big changes often help, smaller habits like taking supplements like Hormone Harmony can offer a huge impact as well. Taking care of your hormones is about investing in your long term health. If you don't know where to start, take their free hormone quiz and you'll learn more about your hormone balance and how you can make small, intentional changes to support your body. But whether it's with Hormone Harmony or another Happy Mammoth product, this quiz helps to guide you towards solutions that work specifically for you. If you're ready to start feeling like yourself again, head over to happymammoth.com and take the free 2-minute hormone quiz today. And for a limited time, you'll also get 50% off your entire first order with my code BGH at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code BGH for 15% off today. That does not mean that we allow these people with this new acceptance that we allow them to be in our life, to be in our inner circle, to be our lovers, to be the family members that we call when something's going on. You know, something that has been frustrating in the past, not when specifically my students have done this, but when they really try their best and the people on the other side of this end up hurting them. It is so frustrating to me. It makes me want to be like, girl, let me talk to your mama. Like, let me talk to your daddy. Let me talk to your sister who said this to you. Not really, y'all. I've never said that. But like it makes me really empathize and hurt for the folks on the other side of this. But whenever I have a student who is like really trying her best to like be aware of her emotions, be honest with herself, and express herself, and share what she needs, and she goes to a toxic family member who their response to her vulnerability is to gaslight her, to dismiss her, to mock her, to make fun of her, or to make promises that they know they're not going to follow, to bring up the sibling that's the golden child, to continue to scapegoat them, to be flat and not respond at all. This my student is pouring out her heart only to have this person just like give a half-ass apology. Like I hate when that is the experience for folks, because it just re-traumatizes us and it re-triggers us, and it's not fair, and it makes us feel like, one, why did I even do that? Two, this is what happens. Like it kind of reinforces this belief in your head that this is what happens when you share your feelings with people. No one really cares, but that's not what it is. When we continue to give our pearls to swine, when we continue to try to give our most precious jewels to people who've showed us straight up that they're thieves, that they are irresponsible with these things, that they don't care about their own jewels enough, right? And we're expecting them to say, like, okay, here's my very precious, prized heirloom, and I love you so much. This is why I'm giving it to you, right? And then we get very surprised when they drop it on the ground and step on it, when they showed us straight up that they were not. Um, they were not going to be careful with it in the first place. Right. And so we have to pay attention to these feelings, to these gut feelings. And I'm going to repeat now something I said at the beginning of the episode. There are going to be some of us that we had a gut feeling before. And now that we've invested in this relationship, we did whatever we needed to do to stay attached to this person, to go deeper with this person. And maybe we've made some really big commitments to them. Maybe we've even started to build a life with them. And so we're very deeply in. But now that things are clicking, we're like, I thought and I hope that things would get better, but it's not. And not only am I still feeling what I felt before, I'm feeling worse. And we've already done all the like, well, maybe it's me, maybe it's my feelings, maybe it's my emotions, maybe I'm asking for so much, too much. And you try to reduce that as well. You try to become sacrificial and ignore that. And something still isn't clicking. It is okay, y'all. It is okay. I promise you, it is okay to check in with those feelings and now have a real honest conversation with yourself about where you are. Have a real come to Jesus meeting with yourself about where you are honestly in your heart and your mind and your body, in your spirit. And what are you actually feeling? If you could say exactly what it is that you're feeling without any consequence, what would that truth be? And let yourself sit with that truth and then make a decision from there. Acknowledge that there have been some things that you have not been able to pay attention to, maybe because it would have been too painful, maybe because it would have felt like too much, maybe because you were afraid of hurting people on the other side, or maybe, like I said before, y'all have invested a lot into this friendship. Maybe you are deeply invested as a best friend and you're deeply involved in their life. Maybe y'all are neighbors. Maybe y'all do Sunday dinner as a big group of everybody. And so if you actually are honest about what's going on with this person who's your best friend, it's going to fuck up the whole friend group. Maybe it means that for you to be honest with this is going to go against culturally what is expected in your family when it comes to respecting elders and always being available for family. Maybe you would have to create some distance and you don't want to do that. Or maybe straight up you're married to someone. Maybe you have kids with them. And what you thought this would be is not what this is. And this isn't a temporary thing. This is actually, when you look back at it is not, there's red flags that have always been there. I hope, and it's hard because the things that I talk about here on this podcast, of course, this is a trauma-based podcast that focuses on destructive and toxic relationships, right? So it's not always going to be sunshine and roses. But I've said this before, I am still a hopeless romantic. I believe in love. I believe that relationships work. I believe that relationships are some of the most incredible gifts that we can have, to be loved and to be loved by someone who is healthy and available. Like, it is the deepest gift that any of us can have. And I believe that is available for all of us. But when we are with the wrong people, we will miss the perfecting factor that happens when we're with available people. But honest conflict happens because it will happen. It will happen with your soulmate. And through that, you will learn a lot, grow, get closer. There will maybe moments of distance. And we hear that. We hear that from other people who have relationships and lifestyles and wisdom that we want. For anyone who follows the Meet Cute account, like I think they were both on Instagram and TikTok, but this guy goes around New York asking people, hey, are you a couple? How did you meet? And for the couples who have been together for the ones that you can see the joy, you can see the laughter, you can see that they truly like each other. Like, past all the things that we've been told that, as time goes on, you may grow apart and you might have to get the spark back, but you can tell these people are something, right? And you can feel it through the screen. And you hear their advice and you hear what they talk about how to make it to 20 years, 30 years, 54 years, and still have this person be your best friend, to where their eyes literally light up and dance about the person on the other side of it. We watch these people and we're like, okay, I just have to hold on and do these things because then it'll be better. But I think for some of us, we got into relationships with people whose eyes never danced when they looked at us across the room. We got in relationships with people who never truly stoked a fire inside of us. We got with people that we learned and were so used to taking care of others that what was the attraction is that this was a cool person I got to take care of, right? Like we never had a felt sense of what it felt like to be adored and loved and valued. And so now, 5 years in, 10 years in, 2 months in, for some of us, something is not clicking. And we need to take an honest look at ourselves or take an honest look at what brought us here. And sometimes it's painful. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, it is painful. And if this is a person that we really love and care about versus feeling obligated to, because obligation and love are two different things, by the way, y'all. Feeling obligated to someone and feeling love for them are two different things. We don't feel like we have a right to create this distance because of the collateral damage of hurting this other person. But the worst thing that you can do is to continue to create or feed into relationships that were broken from the start. So I'll say this again. Some of us get into relationships with people where things are healthy and we are going through the normal wear and tear of what it is for two humans, two spirits, two souls to come together and figure out life in this physical world. That's what happens. But there's real love, there's real redemption, there's real reclamation. That is the story for some of us. Some of us, we ended up marrying, connecting to, befriending, are the adult version of the representations of our childhood trauma. So whether or not you married your mom, you married your dad, you married your granny, you married your childhood bully, or married some conglomeration of it all. But married someone, something, a situation, connected to something, someone, a situation, that was just a representation of continued neglect, harm, being ignored, being abused, being used, um, being discarded. That's the story for some of us. And if it's hard for you to give yourself permission to to see that and to own that, I want to give that permission to you. And I also want to give you the permission, or I want to give you the assurance to know that life on the other side of this, y'all, if that is your story. And I'm saying this not only from my personal experience, but also from the experience of hundreds of women who have helped have this clarity. And then women who I've not personally helped, but by way of this podcast, they've messaged me their stories. Life on the other side of the relationship that is causing your gut to turn in knots and sleepless nights, and you're feeling depressed and you lost yourself after years of telling yourself that it's you, and you're just like, this might be me, but I can't do this anymore. And you're afraid of what you may lose on the other side of this. When I tell you that how sweet life is, some of us, our biggest trauma is our current relationships. And it really is as simple as when you are away from this intimate connection, your health will physically improve. Your ability to sleep will physically improve. Your joy will improve. Your self confidence will improve. Your other relationships will improve. Your children's health will improve. Your money will improve. That is actually, that it really is for some of us, that relationship, that friendship, that over connection to your mother, father, grandfather, your codependency with people in your life, that romantic relationship, that it really as simple as that is the trigger. And all the remediation that you're trying to do is not working because it's not supposed to be there. It is a thorn in your side that has no redemption. And you got to pluck it out. Okay? So, whoever that was for, I hope that that landed how you needed it. And that maybe you can come back to this episode if you need to hear that again. But that's number two. The secret way that we may ignore and feed into relationships or feed into red flags is ignoring our feelings and not paying attention to discomfort that we have in our body because we're like, for whatever reason, this is a good person. I've already been here. It's too late. You know, For some of us, we're so good at sacrificing that we're like, we realize that this is a real gap in need, but we're like, it's okay, I don't need it. I can live life without whatever the need is. And you can't, hun. That's why it keeps coming up. It's not normal. And not only not normal, but it's not healthy for you. And you're going to continue to decline until you pay attention to it. All right. Number three, the third secret way that we will secretly ignore and feed into red flags for people who are not good for us is underestimating that some people really are that bad, that selfish, and that manipulative. I think it is very hard. And this is for not only my love addicts listening, but also my love avoidance, who some of us are the extreme of love avoidance. So you are so crystal clear, like you're so good at being logical and you're so good at like seeing things objectively. But when your heart is involved, you're just as susceptible to what I'm about to share. The women that I serve across the board are the most loving. Y'all are the most loving, caring, beautiful souls and spirits. All of you, every single one of you. I am always so amazed and impressed and honored to be in your presence. You know, whether or not we get up to talk on the phone, on a call, and see y'all in person at an event, at a workshop, at a retreat, or just in one of my coaching programs, y'all are always y'all blow me away with the genuineness of your spirit and how incredible you are. Whether or not you see it or not, it just shines through the screen, or shines around you. And I think the hard part for all of y'all, all of us, even in spite of the trauma that we've gone through, for many of us, it is hard for us to truly believe that there are some people who really are just that evil, that heartless, that detached. That is, that all boogeymans do not come with horns and come with red skin. That they are not going to come with big googly eyes. They're not going to drool and come around with trench coats. They're not going to have weird haircuts. Some of them have beautiful fades and deep waves. Some of them work in engineering firms. Some of them volunteer on Sundays. Some of them are come in a package that make you laugh more than anybody else. Some of them are going to be the ones who hold your hand when your mom passes away and brings you soup in the morning. And these are also the same people who, when it comes to their own self-interest, they will take advantage of you, they will lie to you, they will manipulate you just to get what they want, and they will not have any remorse from it. Your tears do not matter. Your broken heart does not matter. The STD they give you, they do not care. The child that ends up getting neglected on the other side of this, not their problem, right? But they may not be as cold as the way that I'm saying it right now. They may fluff it up with a whole lot of other words and say, I'm really sorry. I wish I could do better or whatever. But the end result is the same. And when we underestimate that there are some people who are just that manipulative, we will waste energy on telling these people off because we think that if we tell them off, it is going to zing them or get them in such a way to where something clicks. Like I cannot tell you how many of my clients are talking about a past partner, family member, their dad who was like super detached or not involved, or an ex or a current person they're dating, or a friend who's just like really like says like really mean things. And they'll say something to the effect of, like, obviously what you're doing is not working. Like I've heard that same phrase 8 million times. Obviously what they're doing is not working. Like, why can't they see that? And I'm like, girl, actually it is. Because what they want, what you want and what they want are not the same thing. They want access, they want attention, they want sex, they want something to feed whatever is their goal is. Their goal is not harmony in a relationship. Their goal is not a committed relationship with lifelong love and a happy ending. Their goal is not emotional intelligence and sleeping peacefully at night. They sleep very peacefully at night with what they do already, right? There are some people who do not have the same morals and standards that you do, hun. And it doesn't matter how much you expose and show it to them. It doesn't matter how many buildings and relationships crash around them. They are getting exactly what they want until they decide otherwise. And there's nothing that you can do to illuminate that to them or to make them want to pivot from that, right? There are some people who are just heartless. And there are some people who are not heartless, but they're so traumatized and they've gone through so much bullshit that their walls, you are not getting through those walls. It is the Pentagon wrapped up in the fucking pyramids that has been pushed down into the core of the earth. You ain't getting there. There's no way for you to get there. They're going to have to do their own work to want to unravel that. So the best use of your energy is, if you do need to say something, that you're saying something to yourself or for yourself, that if you do go off on them, that you understand that you're talking to a brick wall and that you're doing this for your own inner child. That actually, for some of us, when we're actually really on top of our inner child work and working through these things, some of us will find that what we think needs to be said to them, finding a way to come and self reparent and care for ourselves and soothe ourselves, does the trick. We no longer need to have this final closure conversation with them because we're able to give it to ourselves, right? Um, and that's the importance of doing this work so that we don't stay on this merry-go-round of talking to people and giving to people who cannot, will not, do not want to, don't know how to show up for us. But some of us just really need to be honest with ourselves, not even be honest. Some of us need to come to believe. Some of us just need to come to believe that there really are some people who are just that bad, that selfish, that ridiculous. And they will be the most, not only physically beautiful, but they may have some of the sweetest demeanors. They may have some really attractive qualities or some really redeeming qualities, but that doesn't change the predatory nature or the level of selfishness that they will have for anyone, any person that they are in an intimate relationship with. It is not your job. It's not your responsibility. And you couldn't if you wanted to. Change that. They have to do that on their own. And you are not going to waste your life and your time and your energy and your body and your heart trying to break down the walls of someone who doesn't want it. Like they don't want it. It's not even that they don't know they don't want it. They don't want it. So you got to move around and you have to look inside of you. What pattern am I repeating to where when I find someone who has these walls, you got to do everything I can to show them the light, to convince them that you might not want to change it for anyone else, but don't you want to change for me? Aren't I worth you changing for? Where did that pain come from in my life? Well, when was the first time that you had people who you had to do that for? That it was so vital for your survival, emotional, mental, physical, for someone to see you, someone who has such deep, high walls up that you needed to fight for them to see you. And how did that work out? How did that make you feel? Did that even ever work? Did you ever feel safe on the other side of it, even if they did happen to pay attention to you, and did their attention stay? I would assume probably not. And I would assume that you still felt as insecure as you did before, or that their attention was temporary. So that means we gotta reparent ourselves and heal these things and find relationships with people who will not repeat this trauma and that do not offer us a way to repeat this trauma on ourselves. Okay. Whew. So that was a lot. I hope that this helped those of you who needed it. If there are any secret ways that you have currently in the past, or maybe in the future, may do some of these things for future relationships, keep this in mind. If the root sources of this are things that you would like to work on together, the recovery school is the place to do that. Every single thing that I talk about here is not only covered in the recovery school, but how to work through it, the next steps. exercises and also support to help you work through it so you're not trying to do this on your own, so that you're not caught on the other side of like your own not, I've said this before, we can only see to the end of our own self-awareness and self-perception. So there are things that you don't know that you don't know. And so this program is built in such a way to help you break these patterns, heal from love addiction, love avoidance, and the trauma that causes it to make way for healthy love. So you can learn more by going to therecoveryschool.com. So I'm sending you all so much love. And as always, take care of yourselves. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Black Girls Heal. If this episode helped you in any way, please be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone you love. And if you're ready to go deeper and turn what you're learning about here into real life change, join us inside the BJH Members Club. You'll get ad-free bonus episodes, powerful worksheets about every topic we discuss here, and exclusive lessons to help you apply the healing tools we talk about. You can join today at blackgirlsheal.org/members. And as always, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week.